Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. So, sad situation, kind of. Poetry week is ending. I mean, it was supposed to end on Thursday. A bunch of students did not show up because they figured if they don't show up Thursday, I won't make them read. So the weekend here is Friday and Saturday. So then yesterday being Sunday, they showed up, and then I had them read, "Oh, please, please." So I told them, okay, well, you only had to go for 35 seconds rhyming in English. Now you got to go for 60, just because you got extra time. So they want to delay the same requirements that other people have to meet on time, and then not have anything extra added on in exchange for the extra time. And my students that I have now are actually better than normal. They're not Bedouins, but they still have that mindset. Some, to a certain extent. Only one cheated. And he knew not to show up on yesterday because I was not going to go easy on him. He cheated. It wasn't a test, but I still don't care. I'm never going to view this kid the same. I'm always going to see him as a low-life, rat bastard Bedouin who couldn't write a simple poem and read it in front of the class, even when I was being lenient about the quality of the poems, because it was their first time doing it in English, and for some people, their first time doing it in any language at all. He'll never be the same because he actually wrote one in English and then decided at the last minute, I'm scared to read this, it's bad, let me go ahead and copy from the internet. So he copied Afro Man's crazy rap and started to read that. He didn't get to the really, really nasty, truly profane parts before I caught him. In any case, this poor guy, and I mean mentally poor, he upped himself up. And now I got other students that have been absent all last week. They're coming back. They got to read too. That means they got to write something. They got to make it rhyme in English. And they got to do it for about 60 seconds because they didn't show up when it was only 35. So they got to go a full minute rhyming in English. It doesn't have to be a rap. I don't care if it has rhythm. I don't care if they play a beat or not. I prefer they don't, actually, so I can hear their words. But these ignorant asses were right. 4 lines and just use the same word at the end and think that's a rhyme. And I have to tell them that's not a rhyme, idiot. And they'll turn around and use, they'll write 4 lines with no rhyme at all. And I have to tell them that's not poetry, it's not a rhyme. That's why I'm giving them a lot of time to do this. But I'm not letting them escape from it. I've had enough students do it to where the rest of them can do it. I know the rest of them can, so they have to. And I make them do it for longer because they ducked and dodged and didn't come to class once they saw in the Telegram group that they had to do poetry. Now the point I'm getting here is that there have to be the same standards for all, minus legitimate exemptions and excuses. Based on actual disabilities, there have to be the same standards for everyone. Sometimes you got to go harder on some than you do on others. That's how that works. And that's what I'm facing at my job. What makes sisters in the West so insufferable is that they always have an exemption. Now, as somebody who actually does have some exemptions and valid excuses, I get tired of hearing sisters with their invalid excuses. And Ebony Williams is the main example of this, which is why she's in the title. If the black family structure has been under attack for the decades it has been, and it's worse post-civil rights than it was before, and it's worse post-bondage than it was before, well then goddamn, that means something's not right, something doesn't work. And sisters keep on thinking that they can come with all this attitude and neck rolling, and that's just who they are, and we gotta take it. And Ebony Williams, for all of her education and accomplishments, was no exception. So when Ayanla said, will you date a bus driver? Ayanla was speaking to the natural hypergamy. If he owns the bus, no, you don't get to do that. You can't wait until you're that age when most men don't like that. And I know, because God forbid, I mean, hell, her age ain't a problem for me, personally. If she would have found that out and realized that, Assalamu alaikum, and realized that I was going to give her a chance, that the age did not stop me individually, and I was an exception, she would look at me sideways and wonder, well, what the hell's wrong with this dude? I mean, I'm 40-something, and I'm finding that in his eyes, the young broads can't compete with me. Something's wrong with him. That's because there's no valid exception. When it comes to these ladies, even when it's in their favor, there's no valid exception. They will condemn the norm if it's inconvenient to them, but they will turn around and condemn the exception if it's convenient to them. And so that's how they'll judge, and they'll make their minds up that way. And that's why I'm such the jerk that I am with them. It's not because, let's say, okay, well, it's not because I like them and they say no. It's more like, even when it's convenient for them, they're just looking for reasons to downplay you. They can't, there's no meeting of the minds. It's beyond just them. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. It's beyond just them not wanting a particular one, even if it's me. It's beyond, it goes into the issue of them deciding that they have to condemn you for something, like you're morally wrong all the time, no matter what. They find fault and find flaw no matter what. And you are supposed to find it in you to just be patient while they're hypercritical. See, if they're hypercritical of me and they're not aware of why they are, I get it. They may be hypercritical of me because they don't identify me as one of us. But we now know that actually that's a plus. We now understand that if they don't identify a man as one of us, he gets a pass. And I realized too that if you were ambiguous, you were visually unidentifiable, but your own kind are still your preference, to those brothers in a similar situation as me, let me state this. Your best bet, if you're ambiguous, but you love you some sisters, your best bet is to never tell them that you a brother. Best thing you can do, because they are not going to respect you. It's one thing to identify yourself as cool with the brothers, like, you know, Jason Pope, Mr. Yo Club promoter that spread HIV to about 700 in South Carolina. See, if you do that, then that means you're black adjacent. And so therefore, that's okay. That's fine. But if you turn around and you identify yourself as us, that's altogether different. Then you've downgraded yourself as far as sisters are concerned. They don't have to respect you. And they will not. And if you were ambiguous in appearance, but you still identify yourself as one of us, they actually respect you less, because they hate being us so much. They look at you and say, why would you admit it? Even though they may high five you or dap you down or something, or they may act like they encourage you to be proud of it. Even though they may tell you that, they still don't understand it if you see it that way from the beginning. You see where I'm going with this? Ebony Williams was no exception. despite her accomplishments, self-improvement, degrees, fame, income. She's not been an exception to any of these things at all. And this is what you're facing. You're being blamed, in a nutshell, for what somebody else did. And she wants to couch it as, I just expect more from you, when the fact is, that's exactly why it is that I tell brothers and told brothers a long time ago, don't you go chasing these broads. It's one thing to talk to them, but it's altogether different when you actually chase them. They'll never respect you. I used to tell brothers this because I expected more out of them. What she's saying is, forget how rare money is. You better have an abundance of it, even if everyone having an abundance of money would merely lead to hyperinflation and therefore the vanishing value of the money, even if that's what it means to her. So mother cuss word what? Everybody better have an abundance of money. If all of us have an abundance of money, in order for that money to have the same purchasing power, guess what has to happen? A bunch of other people who outnumber us have to have no money. Pennies. That's what that takes. That's what that means. They don't understand that. They don't care, actually. I don't think they would sit back and let that happen to Massa anyway. We have the money and Massa's got to be poor. If Massa has to work extra hard to get very little. And then we turn around and elevate a few of them to celebrity status and then use them as examples for the rest so that they can feel bad about themselves. No, she wouldn't let that happen anyway. So, I know, gentlemen, I know. The thing that makes Ebony Williams unique is only that she had a platform and a lot of followers, a large audience, along with Ayanna Van Zandt, and everybody heard her answer and saw her facial expressions. What she does not want to accept is that, much like my students who have to go through extra because of the ease and liberties they took without license, she likewise must go through extra because of the ease and the liberties that she took without license. That's the thing that has to be said, thing that has to be spoken. She made her mind up. She decided, well, you know what? I just can't. I just can't stay disciplined, and I can't buckle down when I'm young and in my 20s and fertile and fit and childless, and she still is childless. I mean, but she pretty much, when she was younger, she pretty much sat up and said, much like that really, really nice looking lady that was talking to Kevin Samuels one time, the one that had twin daughters. She was pretty much saying, when I was young, nobody was good enough. Except the ones that were too good, nobody was good enough. And now, those guys are not going to settle for someone like her. It doesn't take as much money for the bus driver to be okay, be in a good position, as it takes for her to be in a good position. Bus driver doesn't need all of that. He doesn't need $4 million. She does. She can't accept that at this point she deserves exactly whatever the hell she doesn't want, mainly because she passed up on that which was better for her when she was younger. And this is exactly why it is that you've got societies in which, though the women can choose themselves, the men in the family also assist in that choice, if not outright vet. There is a reason for that. Because they will not choose wisely. If they have to listen to dad or granddad or an older brother, they might choose wisely. But other than that, no, they will not choose wisely. Absolutely not. They have their minds made up. I'm not going to think. I'm not going to be smart. I'm not going to be wise. I am here to get what I want. And they're not even going to be led by the womb, by the clitoris. Shout out to Don Calypso for that. It's not that womb's leading. They would have picked better if it was. It's the clitoris. And the clitoris, the clitoris actually is the enemy of the womb. And I'm not one of those who believes in cutting away the clitoris and what's called FGM, or female genital mutilation. I'm not one who believes in something like that. Yet and still, however, I do know where that idea came from. It's just wrong. I know what purpose it served, even though it was wrong. I get sick and tired of hearing people try to justify that particular thing. But by the same token, I also understand why it is that dads and brothers step in and say, hold up, well, we don't mind someone good for her, marrying her and living with her and all that. We don't mind that. We want her to be treated well. But we're going to help because she can't choose by herself. Ebony didn't have that benefit. But by the same token, she's not by herself. She's just an example that has a big audience that can hear her answer. Ebony knows mother cuss word well what it is. Ebony knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that she knows her age. She knows what she doesn't have that she used to. She knows that even certain things dry up a bit more easily now. She's aware of that. And she's looking and she's saying, well, how come Mr. Right, Mr. Prince Charming couldn't come sweep me off my feet when I was younger and had all these things? Failing to understand that she would have continuously kept looking for better. If someone like that had committed, she would have kept on looking for better. She thinks exactly what many others think, and that is that God should be unfair to men to the advantage of women because women want that. That's what she thinks. So while you and I, gentlemen, have to deal with real world setbacks and problems, coincidences that aren't even coincidences, but rather seem to be fate working against us, if not God himself. And I say seem to be, because God is not the oppressor. But while we have to face these things, they are complaining about natural results of what they have chosen. They are not only complaining about these things, but they're complaining about the same thing they would have done, the same results they would have enacted against us if the tables were turned. I mean, think about it. Can a lady behave herself the same way after she has a boob job? Can she do it? Have you ever seen a lady that you knew before and after a chest augmentation behave the same way? You've never seen it. Now, you may not have known a bunch of them that got that. Have you ever seen one of them before and after a BBL behave the same way? You have not seen that. Hell, you can't even see one lose weight and then see them behave before and after the same way. Even if they have some of the same likes and preferences, they like the same movies, that there are things, especially with regards to how they treat other women and how they treat men, there are things they will change, absolutely guaranteed, and you can predict how they will do it. When I was about 15, I was very sure that there was a correlation in between breast size and a bad attitude. Mind you, black folk talk about the booty and all that stuff. We don't even talk about chest that much. You put extra chest meat on a lady and watch how she acts. She cannot have the same reasonable attitude. She can't even have a decent attitude compared to whatever she would have had before she had them. She can't do it. It's not possible. So, Ebony is really just like everybody else that we know. She's like that fine high school chick you knew, the fine one in middle school that you knew, the fine one that goes to work now at the job that you know. She's the same way. If you want to know why or how to explain the phenomena of SYSBM, IBMOR, Passport Bros, Passport Gang, it's real simple. You simply say Ebony Williams is typical. Just like Pearl Hannah Davis is typical for a Wyatt woman, Ebony Williams is typical for a Western sister. She just has more people listening to her when she shows it. We should thank her because she makes it easier for us to explain, and we can tell everybody what it is. And what it is nothing other than that. She has her mind made up that she can't be welcoming and look like she does. And she still thinks that she should be pursued into perpetuity, unendingly. That's what it is. But more importantly, she can set herself up for the very life that she now has. And she still cannot accept the parts of it that she doesn't like, even though she insisted on it when she was younger. Just like many of my students, some of them who go the wrong mother cuss word route and set themselves up to have to go through extra difficulty towards the end, or a day like today, and they can't accept that they did this to themselves. Thanks for listening. Black heart, black man, black out, assalamu alaikum, and as always, black, heterosexual, non-select male power just because they don't like it, and black patriarchy until extinction of Judgment Day. Thank you again for flying with me on Jet Black Airways, where jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with me till the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender, justice, forever. And if you remember, punch the Cash App button on your way out of the Jet Black aircraft.